Hey, hi guys. Good evening.
Hi, Shiva.
Hi. Only 2 members joined. Surprising. Hey, let's wait for a few minutes and see if the guys are joining or not. I will ping in the WhatsApp group. Hey, hi Dharmesh. Yeah, I'm just waiting for 2 more minutes. Let me see how much.
Hi, Shiva.
Yeah. Hi, Jax. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Yeah, this is the same ID, Dharmesh. No more confusions. Okay. That the other meeting ID I just gave you for few folks only for the Java session. Okay, 2 special Java sessions, and this the ID that continues for entire Spark batch. Okay. Okay. Yeah, at least more than 50% attendance is there. So let me get started then. And by the way, I want to check with everyone, like, so are you guys all set? Meaning, did you guys install JDK? Did you guys install Scala SDK? And did you install Eclipse? And how many of you tried out the Scala assignment?
Hi, Shiva.
Even I'm waiting from your people that how many of you completed your assignments? Okay, so just wanted to check the status on that.
Hi.
Yes, Dhruva.
Here.
Hi, Shiva. Yeah, so I did a part of it, like, I did until the swapping of the numbers, but couldn't do later part. But then I'll complete it today, actually.
Okay. So
yeah,
at least
I'm on track, actually.
Okay, so at least all the setups are done, and you started with your assignment, right?
Yes. I started with the assignment. I was until the there's a swapping assignment, right? Like the numbers should be swapped without using any variable again,
Yes.
third variable. So I did that, and then after that I couldn't complete it. But today I'll do all of that.
Okay. Yeah. Why? Because I'm expecting your answers. I'm expecting at least you guys send me your answers so that I come to know who all did and who didn't do this.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I can send you the code that I wrote actually.
Okay. Yeah. So, anyone else facing any setup issues still? So, if you guys sent me that the Java command not found. So it's the same issue for Snehali, for Revati, and for Dharmesh. Okay. So if you didn't have your JDK already installed on your laptops, if you directly install Scala, that will throw that error message saying that your Java command not found.
Shiva, for me, it's working now. For me and Revati, it's working.
Yeah. I mean, we fixed it, right? So after installing JDK, and after that adding that JDK path to JDK bin folder path to a path environment variable, then it got fixed, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just suggesting, just if there are any folks who are facing the similar issues. So only I heard from three of you only, Snehali and Revati and Danish. I think others, I'm hoping that you guys are on track and you guys are started practicing it. Okay. So Scala is simple. Only thing is you just need a little bit practicing. Since it adds on new features, in the beginning it might be a little bit confusing, the syntax and its concept sometimes. Concepts wise, obviously not much to confuse, but syntaxes you will get confused sometimes if you are coming from other programming languages. Okay, so I hope
the installation part, right? The Eclipse, we have 64-bit version. We don't have like 80-bit, 84-bit version, 86-bit.
32-bit version is not there for Eclipse.
Yeah, we have 32 and 64, and we don't have 86, I guess, right?
86 means that is 32-bit only, right? 86 by 64 means. That is for 32-bit machines only.
Okay. Because the JDK, we have 32-bit, 64-bit, and 86-bit.
But that 86 by 64 will work for 32 bits also.
Okay, because I tried to, because my JDK was 86-bit JDK and Scala. And when I tried to run 64-bit Eclipse, it was not working.
Okay, so why don't you maintain all the three of them are 64? Because
after that I uninstalled and installed the 64-bit JDK and Scala, and then Eclipse 64-bit. It was working.
Yep, and the recommended is 64-bit only, even on your Windows, or it's on Linux in Hadoop also. All the Linux operating systems will be 64-bit editions only, even on the Hadoop clusters.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to share this point so that in case somebody is trying.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for. And if you guys are still, if anyone are facing any Java issues, I got a volunteer from this batch itself. He's very good and strong in Java. I know him. So if anyone need any separate session, question and answer kind of session for maybe 2 hours or 2.5 hours, based on his time availability, I will set it up. Okay, because I already took 2 sessions And since I got one more volunteer, I will facilitate that. So whoever is needed, just send your interest in the chat message, so that I will consider and I will plan sometime during the weekdays based on his availability. Okay, it's purely around timings will be around this, but on which day it will be possible, I will set up based on his availability.
Sure. Thanks, Siva. Thanks for your proactive effort. It's really great.
Yeah, actually, I mean, if you don't understand any programming, at least one programming language concepts, it's a bit difficult to catch up Scala quickly. So that's the reason why I'm taking extra sessions on Java and trying to help you with other ways as well. Okay.
Sure. My side, the last 4 days, I got stuck up with a lot of project work. I didn't try it much, so I think I have to spend more time to practice Java and then come back to Scala. So I'll be a little slow, but I'll try to share the assignments later.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. As long as you are putting efforts, I'm pretty much satisfied. Like I'll be okay. Okay.
Sure.
So it's not like you are not concentrating. I mean that makes feel bad. That's it. So as long as you are putting efforts, that's fine.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. So yeah, let's get back to the contents. So I hope everyone can see my screen, and just stop me if my voice is cracking at any point of time. I will join from my mobile. I have my mobile, everything in hand only. Yeah. So I'm keeping you all on mute. Oh, good. At least we got 10 members around. Okay, 9 members.
Shiva?
Yeah.
This is Shavani.
Yes,
Are there any assignments shared by you for Scala? Actually, I did not got.
Yeah, one quick update that I gave was like, you will not get any new files placed in the Google Drive. After placing any files, I will not be sending any email notifications going further. Okay. So once I have given an access to you, Spark Training October 16 folder,
Okay.
You have to keep checking in that folder. Okay.
Okay.
All the three days videos are there, assignment there, and any slides also I will put it in this. Okay.
Okay.
And if you feel like if there is anything that I have already told you that I will share, and if I didn't, you can ping me in the WhatsApp or WhatsApp group. I will upload that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Sure.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Good. People are joining. 11 numbers. Okay. Yeah, I'm keeping you on mute. Everyone on mute. Okay. So let me quickly summarize. We started discussing about functions in the last session. So we talked about functions written in whatever the last statement is the written statement, and written keyword is optional. And specifying the written data type is also optional. Scala can determine that. But specifying the data type of your method arguments, your function arguments, function parameters, this is specifying a:\int is mandatory. And we talked about that. And we also concluded that if your method parameters or function parameters are of any val data type, they are immutable. And if the method parameters are of like any ref, which means a class variables or objects, those are mutable. Those can be mutable. That is like no problem, Raj. Okay. So we talked about these things, and setting up a default values at the time of function definition. And if you don't pass, while making that method call, if you don't pass parameters, then default values will get applied. And when you are calling, you can also give not just the parameter value, you can also give the parameter name and its value. So when you are giving the parameter names and values, the order of the parameters can also be changed however you like. Okay? And returning a more than one value from the method is also just a one line of code in Scala, whereas in Java you need to write at least, if you have 3 to 4 fields, you need to create a one separate bean, or which is a pozo, that needs at least declaration of those many number of private fields, and getter and setter methods, constructor, and while retrieving you have to use get methods, while sending you have to create the object and call the set methods. Okay, almost it will add up just for 4 fields. If you have to return, that will add up again 40 to 50 lines of code easily, whereas you can achieve just with one line of code in Scala. Okay, so this one we have talked, and quick tour we have just seen like a basic comparison, a variable declaration, a constant declaration, and a method. Okay, yeah, so here is what we have to continue today. So there is nothing much in this, but just a precaution that we need to take care here. So same like any other languages, a recursive calling of the functions is supported, but a pure recursive calling is not recommended, same as in Java. For example, just let me show you this. For example, we have a function sum. If I want to calculate sum of 10, so my intention is to sum 0 to 10 numbers. If that is my requirement, if I have to define my function sum of 10, so I can write my function definition as, if that number itself is 0, then return 0, else if it is 10, 10 plus sum of 9, and this sum of 9 will become 9 plus sum of 8, and then it will become 8 plus sum of 7. Let me write down the notes as well. Okay, so that way, I didn't even create the div. Let me close some of the applications. Seems like CPU utilization is high. Okay. Let that be. So let that get opened. Okay. So if I define a function, sum of n, which is of int, and return type as int, and what I'm trying to do here is, if n equals to, if n is 0, return 0, else n plus sum of n minus 1. This is a recursive way of calling, right? If you call the same function within its definition, so within the body of your sum function, you are again calling that sum function. Then that is called as recursive. Okay, recursive function calling. So most of you guys might be knowing that, but just a precaution, that's it. I mean, nothing concept, nothing syntax here. If you are using, I mean, this precaution holds good for any other programming language. If you are using sum of, when you are using a recursive ways, if you have this will become 10 plus sum of 9. Okay. I think Larissa is not able to join. Give me a second. Okay. So this will become a recursive calling, like 10 plus 9 plus, again, sum of 8. Next time, it becomes like 10 plus 9 plus 8 plus sum of 7. Okay. So when you, especially you are using recursive functions, without your notice, if you are doing anything, if you pass any huge numbers, this is a in backend. How does this gets implemented in the Java interpreter? So it stores this 10 value in a stack, okay, and it's reference to that next method, and then it stores the 9. It's reference to sum of 8. If you have a huge number here, just a value plus num function calling continues here, there is a chance that your stack gets overflowed. Okay, so for that, if you have any recursive functions, try to set them with tail recursive calls. So how we can specify the same function here, the other way of writing the same is def sum. N is your integer, but I'm giving the accumulator also as a parameter. By default, while calling, I'll make it as 0. Okay, so I will define this time as n equal to 0, return ACC as it is. If I pass ACC accumulator as 0 in the beginning, that will be 0 only. Else, sum of n minus 1 comma ACC plus n. Here, this summation operation is happening, then you are calling this method. So this is the difference between. So this, if I call sum of 4 with the previous recursive function, this is the way that it gets called. 4 plus sum of 3, 4 plus 3 plus sum of 2, 4 plus 3 plus 2. And sum of 0, then finally it starts getting added, and then finally you'll get sum. But if you use tail calls, if I call with sum of 4 comma 0, that will become sum of 3 comma, sum will get added up first, and then the next method will get called. Sum of 2 comma 7, sum of 1 comma 7. I hope you are trying, I mean, you got the difference between these two.
So where, excuse me, where you are saying that sum should be the 10, are you initializing that it should reach to 10?
While calling here, I mean, sum of 4 comma 0, if I call that, so that will get the final result as n. Right? So if I call sum of 4, 0,
Okay.
this will become n is not equal to 0. It will go to else. It will become sum of 4, sum of 3, comma, AC is
Oh, okay.
0.
Okay. So when the sum of 0, when it reaches the first digit 0, it will stop. That's what you're saying, right? It will be keep on
Yes. Exactly.
decrementing. Okay.
Yeah, this is where the stop point is. If n equal to 0, ACC.
Okay, that's where you have n minus 1.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so nothing much related to the Scala concepts, but I mean, this is just a kind of sometimes if you ever get any Stack Overflow exceptions, just make sure that you don't do with this mistake with the functions, especially when you're using recursive functions. Okay, now till now we have seen only simple functions which take some parameters and return some parameters, some values as parameters. Now let's see some different types of functions. And before going to different types of functions, for explaining the functions, I'm taking a simple use case here. Okay, so for that use case explanation, I need I'm defining some functions, simple functions. Just okay. So I have a identity function. I declared my function def identity. It takes x, which is of int type as parameter, and it returns that same x. Okay, and I have a square function which takes x and returns x star x, and cube function x star x. Now what I want to do is similar to that recursive summation. Now I want to achieve that recursive summation operation between two numbers, a range of two numbers. Like if I give a comma b, if a is 1 and b is 10, that 1 to 10 numbers will get summed up. And if I ask for squares between that range, 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square plus 4 square up to 10 square I should get. And if I ask cubes between those two ranges, then my result should be like 1 cube plus 2 cube plus 3 cube plus 4 cube up to 10 cube. Okay, so these are the functions that I need. So for that, if I don't have any other extra features, so what I will do is I'll define simple sum, def sum simple. Let me see if this has got or not. Okay, so I got this worksheet at least. So simple sum or sum simple, which takes a in a comma b, and if the range is not there, if I give 2 comma 2, there is nothing range between those two, then I will simply return 2. Okay, and if there is a range, else a plus sum of simple comma simple of a plus 1 comma b. This is a recursive calling, right? And sum of squares. So if there is no range between those two numbers, I will simply return the square of a, else square of a plus and some squares of a plus 1 comma b. Okay, and sum of cubes. Okay, so def sum cubes a comma b in range. So if there is no range, then return only cube of a. If there is a range there is a gap between those two numbers, then cube of A plus some cubes of A plus 1 come B. Now, either let me take these functions and run in the shell or in the Scala interpreter. Either of them is fine for me. Now, so let me call this, so some simple of 1, 10 and some squares Hey, if you guys are not able to see the font, I will increase the font as appearance, colors and fonts. What's the heck is this? Why is it not showing? I am not able to edit it. Generally, we should be able to edit from here. Colors and fonts, content types, basic.
Maybe you can try zooming your worksheet. That's a simple way, right?
That's a simple way.
Shiva, the text font last one.
What is it? Text?
Text font. Yeah, I just now saw it. In the basic, it is text.
Basic.
Text font, yeah. Last one.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I think it's too large. Okay. So this is more than enough. I think you guys are able to. And even if I reduce font a little more also, I think it's fine. Just give me a second. Okay. Because that might be too much. Okay. So I hope you guys can see this now. Now, I'm simply calling these three methods. Some cubes of 1 to 10. Okay. I'll simply execute this portion of it. Just execute that. So I printed some of simples. Where is this? Some simple. Why didn't it print that? Result 0. Why did it print? Okay, so when I executed some simple 1 to 10, it gave me 55. Some squares from 385, and sum of cubes it's 3025. Okay. Now to achieve these three functionalities, so I have to write three different functions. But if you observe, there is a similarity between all these three functions. So in all the places, I'm just doing sum. But sometimes the original numbers as it is, sometimes the numbers squares, sometimes the cubes of those numbers. Okay. So if I can parameterize that, whether I need the same numbers or squares or cubes, I can reduce the footprint of this code. I can, my functions may become even more generic. I don't need to write this many functions. If I have 4 squares, if I need to write one more function, if I need to use this approach. So, I mean, not just for this purpose. So to solve these kind of things, we have higher order functions. Where till now in Java, you might have seen a function accepting some irregular parameters. But in higher order functions, a function can accept another function as a parameter. Okay, so till now all the functions that we have seen, we are just passing either integers, strings, bools, all any regular data types. But we didn't see any example for passing a function as a parameter to another function. So if you write a function which accepts another function as a parameter, then the function that you wrote is higher order function. The same simple, the previous example that I can achieve, I can simply write one simple function. So here I have these functions, def square, def identity. So instead of these three, I'll simply write one simple sum function. Okay, def sum. So what it has to do, this is a function which takes an integer as parameter, because all these functions take integer as parameter, and returns another integer as parameter return type. And what it takes, a range. A is of integer. Again, sorry. B is another integer. Okay. So let me not worry about the return type. Let the Scala decide that. Sorry, I saved it. It went to top. Let me remove them. There are any errors. So what I want to do inside this is, I'm passing the function itself is a parameter to it. If as per this, if n equals to 0, or if a equals to b, that's the case, right? Return f of a. If you need a simple sums, return identity of a. If you need a square sum, return square of a. And if you need cubes, return cubes. Else, what we will do, f of a plus sum of f comma a plus 1 comma b. Why is it throwing error message? Recursive method sum needs result type. Okay, it's expecting a result type. Okay, so this is a recursive functions need a return type to be defined. Okay. Now, if I use this, if I want to calculate the sum of irregular numbers, I can call the same thing here. Sum of identity function, which takes the same number and returns the same number, and 1, 10. And if I execute this, it might throw that the function is not there if you want to treat it partially applied. See? So I printed that result as 55. And if I want to call, if I need a squares, I can achieve just pass the square. And if I run this, I'll achieve the squares. Result 5, which is of integer 385. If I need a cube, sum of whatever you want. So my function itself, I am passing it as a parameter here. The operation which I need, that itself I am passing it as a parameter. With the help of calling a function inside or passing a function as a parameter to another function. So now here, whatever the function I wrote, sum.
Shiva?
Yeah, let me complete. Okay. So whatever the function that I have written, sum here, so this is now called as higher order function. And we use this a lot. I mean, not this exactly. There is one more version. I mean, there is one more thing that we do in the next slides that we use a lot in Spark programming. And someone, I think it's Dhruva, asked about lambda expressions. That will also get covered in the next slide based on this concept, higher order functions. Yes, Nayali, go ahead.
Is there any limit of how many functions can be called in each other? Like right now you have sum and square or sum and cube. Like do we have in like constant, if you have an infinite loop, can we have like is there a limit to that?
Passing functions as parameters to your function, another function?
Yeah. Like sum, cube, or any, I don't know, function 1, 2, 3, 4. If you keep on doing it, it's like, is there a limit? Like if it is say 10 terabytes of function that we are doing data, we can only have 10 times we can do it. Or is there any limit, or it all depends on the server?
There is no such limit, but there is no such explicit limit. But some places I have seen, if you try to call more than 256 times recursively,
I'm not going to reach there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Then that's fine.
So if you try to call more than 256 times recursively, then that's going to be a overflow, stack overflows, exceptions kind of stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Fair enough. Thank you.
Yep. So this is higher order function. Okay. Now with the help of this, I made, at least I reduced my functions. I don't need now these many functions. With just help of one function, I achieved all the operations. Okay. Then next, instead of having these functions separately defined, because they are used only one time inside this, you can also directly code them in the function while calling it. Okay. So here f:\int arrow int means f is a function that takes an integer parameter. Arrow means returns an integer data type. Okay. Now, this is one of the very, very important, the anonymous function.
Can you go back? I just missed that. I just got lost in that big function. Yeah. Yeah. Can you say that again?
Yeah. So here, while defining the function, when you're specifying the parameters, if it is a regular parameter, you specify a colon int, a colon string, a colon float, something like that. If it is a function, you'll specify the parameter, the input parameter types. Let's say if it is accepting 2 parameters. If it is going to accept 2 parameters, then you should specify int comma float and return some float.
Okay, so you're having a function.
Yep.
Okay.
So here you are telling that f is a function which takes 2 parameters. One is first parameter is int and second parameter is a float, and it returns float.
Okay.
Okay. If you have
so do we have to mention? Do we have to each time mention the return type also? Like, is it a compulsory?
Yes. Here.
In case we don't know, it could like once the calculation is done, we might get varchar also. Can we declare it as like a general one, like any or something?
If you are using, yes, you can declare that. Any also you can give.
Just to be on the safer hands when we don't know what's.
You can give any type mismatch found, any required int.
Okay.
Okay. So at least, I mean, in nested function, when you are passing a function into another function parameter, try to be specific.
Okay.
Because you already passing a function, and you know that what the function that you have defined, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here you know. Here even if you didn't specify the return type, it identified this. It identifies it as an int. But here you have to specify that. Okay. Now, coming to the anonymous.
Sorry.
Yes, Dharmesh.
Can you go back to Eclipse?
Yes.
So when you define with the function return type as any, last the whole function after a and b, you have return type integer, right?
Yep.
So that should be any, right?
That should be of any. Generally, we don't give any data. Any. If you are not returning anything, we give unit. If you are returning anything, try to give at least any val or any ref in the worst case.
Okay. No, I'm just trying to confirm that whatever the inside the function return type should be the final return type of the whole function.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this is a bit about passing one function as a parameter to another function. Is using this, we write higher order functions. Now, next, anonymous function. Okay. So my identity and my this thing, since this piece of code, if you see here, this is just a line of if x is received, return x. If x is received, return x square x. And if x is received, return x star x cube. So just for one piece of code, one line of code, if I don't feel like writing a separate function and giving that a name, without name also, I can simply call while calling it here. Okay. So let's assume I don't have these 3 functions at all. Just comment it out. This. So while calling itself, I'll specify this x arrow x. So what does this mean by? This is a function. Anytime if you see arrow, that means that is a function. Okay. Maybe in C# kind of languages, you might have seen this. And even in Java 8, they have given this arrow. Okay. But in Scala, you'll see equal to and arrow symbol. This symbol. Okay, if you are coming from that languages, I'm telling you. So if you get this is a function, what does this mean by this statement mean by? This is a function which takes x as parameter and returns x. Okay, and here you are not even specifying what is the x data type is. It follows that it conforms to this structure. And here for square, what do you want to do? If x is received, return x star x. And similarly, if x is received, return x star x. If we do this now with just the sum and this only one function, whichever is needed, see, you got 55. And with just these two, you will get again, if you want squares, you are doing on the fly. 385 you got. If you need cubes, just select that piece of code. I mean, the other two functions are not needed. You can see 3025.
Shiva, just one question.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, is it just that we are dealing with numbers and all the mathematical functions only? Because is there because I would be more interested in dates and string functions rather than this numerical functional like if you can give us examples more on the dates and the string functions.
With the dates and string functions, I mean, we can do that, but thing is, I have taken a simple example so that everyone can understand. But this anonymous functions concept, you will see them a lot, like in even in Spark, you'll see them. Okay, there you will get to know, like, if I get a string, what I am going to do with that string. The right side I will specify. Okay. If I want to parse that string, I'll parse it, and I will again process that. Okay.
Yeah.
So here, sum is again another higher order function only. Sum is a higher order function still, and instead of having a special functions already defined, on the fly you can just specify the function body at the time of calling itself. So here x arrow x is an anonymous function in this case, and in the below case x arrow x star x is another anonymous function. This is a function but no name given to that, because it takes an integer and returns the square of that. The same stuff you can do. So just do println of sum of x comma x arrow x and 1 comma 10 x star x. You can print all. And these anonymous functions only called as lambda expressions in other languages like Java 8 or C# or Python. So I think you asked, Dhruva asked this question. Okay, what is mean by lambda expression?
So in what scenario would we be using this anonymous function, like based on your experience?
Almost all the times in Spark you'll see this.
Can you give one particular example where based on your experience where you had to actually use
case? See, it applies in every Spark program. You will see this. Okay. You just have to wait. See, mostly, let me complete. I mean, because later we'll talk about collections and the collections concepts. On collection concepts, we use these anonymous functions. And coming to RDD, RDD's concept is very similar to your collections. Okay. So there it makes sense to you. For now, just understand what is anonymous function. where you are going to use this in real time, you will see in all the examples we use this. Okay, you'll see a lot of examples. I'm telling them.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So here, just x is of int and returning x plus 1. This is also an anonymous function. No name given to this. And your Scala itself gave the function name as res2. And if you call res2 of 10, it will return 11. Okay. See, res2 of 1, if I call this, it will return 2 as result. And you can pass anonymous functions around or save them into vals as well. You can assign anonymous function to a variable. This is like a def only. This is another way of defining a function, giving a name to the function. This is equivalent to def add 1 of x colon int equal to x plus 1. The same function, the one that I have there. So
Shiva, you got me lost here. Can you just read?
Yeah, I'm telling the same. Don't worry. So here I have a function. Okay, simple function I'm taking. Define fun1, and which is of x, which is of int, and return x plus 1. This is my function. And if I call fun of 10, let me do println of 10. It returns 11. Now, this is one way of doing. Okay, and anonymous function. So for this function, anonymous function, defining anonymous function, I'm specifying just, I'll take this out, that's it. Anonymous function means you just take this and paste it. And if you don't give the name, that's it, that is anonymous function. You just have to put an arrow, that's it. X int returns x plus 1. This is anonymous function. And now if you want to give a name to it, you can give this way also. Meaning you can assign this, any expression can be assigned to variables, right? Since Scala is expression-oriented language. We have seen that if-else conditions and switch statements also assigned to variables. And functions can also be assigned to variables. And this is one such scenario where you are assigning a function to a variable. I mean, if you want to make it as a val or var, that's up to you. So I define this as a val constant. Add 1 is a variable which is pointing to a function. Now this is same as this. Add 1 or function 1, they both are same. Three forms of writing the same code. Okay, but the middle one, anonymous one, is most popular. Unless until you call the same function and again, and that function is having more than 2-3 lines of code, then only we give it a name. If it is just a one-liner implementation, then we always go with anonymous functions only. Okay, so here add 1 of 1 also return the same 2. And if you have more than one line of piece of code, select this def2 times 2. This is 2 times 2, more than one line of code. Even then you can write your anonymous functions with the help of curly braces. Just open this I:\int. So in this function, what it is doing, if it takes an integer parameter, and in the body it just prints hello world and then returns the double value of that number. And the same I can do here also. I just need to put it in a curly brace. That's it. I:int, and I can write any number of lines of code here. This is also just an anonymous function. No name given to this.
So you need not have it in the same line. You can keep it in the different lines.
You have to keep it in the different line.
You have to keep it.
Yeah, if you are keeping it in the same line, you have to separate them by semicolon. Okay.
Okay. Good.
Semicolon, as I told you, semicolon is optional in Scala, but sometimes it becomes mandatory, where you write two statements in the same line. That time you have to separate those two statements by space.
Okay.
Otherwise, Scala compiler will get confused.
Okay. So it means that, like how in Hive and all we have the statement termination, we need to give this termination here also. Does that mean that?
If you write it in a new line,
okay,
you don't need to give that new line parameter itself is a statement termination. If you don't give new line after each statement, semicolon is needed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Scala compiler looks for either \n or semicolon, two statement ending symbols or the chars. Okay, so this is also an anonymous function with more than one line of implementation. Now, sometimes in anonymous functions, we may see this some confusing syntax for the first time learners. Like you can define functions with a placeholder syntax. That placeholder is underscore. Underscore stands for anything. Underscore stands for any. Just for understanding this underscore purpose, just let me try to take one simple an array or list. If I have this val some numbers and list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and some numbers dot filter. What it does, let's not worry about. But my intention is that any number in this list greater than 0 should get satisfied or should get in the result.
So is it something like star that we use in SQL and all?
Exactly.
Okay.
So underscore greater than 0. Or if you have to define this in anonymous function, this is like x arrow x. For every x you pass as input to x, check x greater than 0. So whenever you see x arrow x, in those cases you can replace that x arrow x with underscore.
What is underscore, Shiva?
Underscore stands for any.
Like, can you give an example?
Different see here, the filter of underscore greater than 0 means any element that greater than 0 from this list.
Oh, okay. Based on that list. Okay.
You are applying this function on this list. Okay.
Yeah.
So this underscore applies to each element of this list, each element of this array. So first time it applies with 1, second time it applies with 2, third time it applies with 3.
Oh, it's a go on loop.
Yep. This is like a for loop. And this gets applied for every element. And the same x arrow x as well. I mean, might be little bit confusing. But underscore purpose is that So for each element of your list, for each element of your array, and this underscore can be used only when you are running on either collection or arrays in this type of context. And there is some cases underscore has different meanings based on the context. Especially in this case, it is for each element of your array or list. And there is some other scenario that I will explain you. Underscore that while accessing your tuple numbers, tuple values, as we have seen when returning multiple values. You can see here. If I go back, yep. So if I have a values in a tuple, if I want to access the first element, x dot underscore 1, x dot underscore 2, x dot underscore 3. In this context, underscore is a supporting char for specifying the index or which field you want to access from the tuple. Okay, so if you are using underscore just in any relational operator in a function, that means that underscore is applicable for each element of that list. And if it is not in a relational operator, it followed underscore followed by any number, that is for index. You are looking for that first element in that tuple. You are looking for that second element if you have underscore 2. I hope, I mean, these two are the main use cases or uses most of the times you see with underscore. One in the functions, relational operators, and second one in accessing any elements in using indexing, especially in tuples. Okay.
Shiva, one question here.
Yep.
So in order to access a value in tuple, do we need to use only underscore, or like we can use parentheses as well?
We use only underscore. If you have names given to the tuple values, you can just access by those names.
Okay.
But if you don't have any names given, you just have to go by the index offset. Otherwise, you'll not be able to, right?
And that too using your underscore.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thanks.
So that doesn't mean that just underscore defining this way, val f equal to underscore plus underscore means anything plus anything. You should not give this way. Okay. If you are giving underscore that stands for any, that is true. But at least there should be some context. Here, if you are using underscore greater than 0, since you are applying this on the list, this underscore stands for any element of this list. But here, if you are using in this way, val f equal to underscore plus underscore, you are not even telling whether this underscore is an integer or string or whatever it is. So in that case, you can still write a function which does the summation of two numbers, okay, and it expects 2 parameters. This is you are writing sum of a comma b, which returns a plus b in other form of writing as well. So val f, this is a variable which is it is taking underscore any parameter which is of int and does a plus with that, and underscore again any parameter which is of integer type and returns a sum of it too. Yeah. And this is a function. I mean, there is no mandatory rule that you always use all these things, but why I am covering this stuff is generally when you are writing in your real time, obviously if you don't know how to write a logic, you will do a Google search. There you will find this kind of coding, and you should not get confused what is happening there. Okay, so if you are new to this, don't write in this form. That's okay. You simply write def sum of a comma b equal to a plus b. Nothing wrong, and nothing code improved. Number of lines of code got increased also. There also one line, here also one line. But there are more forms of writing this code. Okay, how the result is list of 5 to 9 in result 9. And result 9 list of integer. So yeah, this is a wrong result, of course. Anything that greater than 4, I think so. Obviously this. Okay, so if you need, I can just simply run it. Obviously, all the elements should come. Okay. So I have declared a list, and I just type some numbers dot filter. That will return anything greater than 0. All the numbers should be
7. 7.
See, return all of them. Maybe if I would have that first of all 5 to 10, that 5 comma 10 itself is not there. Maybe I should give this way, greater than 4, then I'll get like 5, 6, 7. Okay.
Upon greater than equal to पण करू शकत ना. दुसरा.
I think you are speaking.
Today. Greater than equal to.
Okay.
करू शकतात.
विसरते का नाही.
So I'm keeping you on mute, Larissa. Okay, you both are talking in Hindi.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Okay. By the way, good catch. So that means you are parallelly practicing then. Good. Okay. Next. So any question? So can we do greater than equal to? Yes, of course you can do. I mean, what's any relational operation? Okay. So
Shiva, can you do the same thing, that greater than or whatever equal to in string and show us there? Like, or the date format would be better. Date, sorry.
Dates comparisons you can't do this way. You have to write your simple date format functions.
Oh, you cannot do this way, like you pass as a parameter and
dates cannot be compared that easily in any language.
Okay.
Even in Hive, you use that lot of date functions, right? Month and that date diff, date. You have to do. See, date is not a something simple number or a something simple string, and even strings comparison, relational comparison doesn't make sense. String operations are different. String operations are like splitting, substring, and lowercase, uppercase, or searching in that. Those are string operations, generally includes. Okay? And dates operations generally plus or minus, and dates comparisons will also be there, but straight date to date, date greater than or equal to, you will not do with at least relational operators directly with the date object. You will have some simple date format classes that either from Java or from Scala. Making use of that, you should be called like a date object dot equal other date. Okay. So good that you are always thinking in terms of real time scenarios. But anyway, you'll get to see all those things. Once we jump into this Spark, you will see anyway we'll not be able to play on just with the numbers. We'll process the files. While processing files, always it's text.
Yeah, because we have something that we are doing right now in our office project also. We will be starting in Spark.
Okay.
So related to that, that's my...
Yeah. Okay, good that. Okay. If that's the case, for dates also, we use, in Java, we have the simple date format classes are very famous, popular for date operations. The same methods we use in Scala. Okay. We have used Scala specific functions also, but because of Java 8 compatibility in our servers and issues, we rolled back to same simple date format classes in Scala as well, and they are simple enough.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. So.
Can we use this underscore function for any type of comparison? Like here you have used greater than, right?
Yep.
Can we use less than as well?
Yeah. Any relational operator.
Okay.
Less than or equal to, not equal to, anything.
Okay.
Okay. So next, function defining inside another function, which is called as a nested function. Writing function inside another function. So till now, whatever the functions that you have seen in higher order function, you have defined your function outside and you just pass that function name as a parameter. In higher order function, you define a function outside and you took that name and you pass that function name as a parameter. That is higher order function case. And you declare the body at the time of calling itself. That is anonymous function. Now, you're not doing either of them. You are returning a function. So till now, in both the previous cases, your function parameter is a function. For one of the function, for one of the parameter of a function is a function. I'm so sorry if I'm confusing my function.
It's totally confusing, Siva.
I'm just trying to make you understand. Let me see. Okay. If I'm passing function, which is int arrow int and another int and another int. Okay. So this is higher order function. Okay. Where you are passing a function as a parameter. But the other case, you can return a function as well.
So in this case, you are passing normal parameters but returning a function.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm just passing a regular parameters, but my return type is a function.
Okay.
Till now we have seen the above case, just the reverse. Just passing function int arrow int or int arrow int and return type is int. Okay. So where a function parameter is a function, but return type is an integer. But here, the return type is a function. This means inside your function definition, you are writing another function and returning that function. You are not returning a value. You are returning a reference to that function. Even this is possible in Scala. Whereas this many features are not there in Java. First of all, you can't pass a function as a parameter to another function, and you can't return a function from another function. And of course, anonymous functions, lambda expressions. I think lambda expressions got introduced in Java 8. They might be achieving that using, but yeah, I'm not much. I didn't use much Java 8 features, at least. I hope you got the difference between higher order function and nested function. Here, the parameter is a function. Here, the return value is a function. Is it clear? Yes, Java 8 has lambda. Is the difference between higher order function and nested function is clear or not? Okay, thank you. Now, so just one example where you return a function. So here if you see def fun, and it is not taking any parameters, but its return type is int arrow int. And inside its body, I'm writing one more function, def square, which takes an integer and returns an integer, and its implementation is, its body is x star x, and return this function name sqr. And I'm trying to call fun, which returns a reference for sqr, and I'm capturing that in my val f. I'm assigning that to a variable f. And next, variable f is now the square function. So I can call f of 10, which is same as square of 10. But that square of 10 is not available outside. The square of 10 is available only inside your function, and this is not visible outside of your function. Since it is returning, by calling this outer function, you can access the square of function. If you have this nature, this is called as nested function. SQR is called as nested function, also called as local function. And this is the use case for functions returning a function.
So without val or where, you cannot call this function, right?
Without val or var, or you can simply call fun this and of 10.
Okay, but the function is with
what I'm telling is fun.
Okay.
This will return square of, you make it 10.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. The syntaxes, anyway, you'll find it out. Don't go by the syntaxes. Try to understand the concepts here. Passing a function as a parameter and returning a function as a return type.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes
syntaxes, anyway, you'll get to know in maybe 1 week, 10 days, here or there. Your Eclipse will itself highlight if the syntax is wrong, and it will suggest you what needs to be correct. I'm least concerned about your syntax things, and even my syntax things I don't bother much about. Anyone can do the do the coding if he is good at concept. Okay, next. In this, again, why it is important is there is one more important concept that is called as closures. Okay, before going to that, since we talked about nested functions, let's talk about the scope of a variable. Same like Java, if you have the same variable defined inside another inner block, which one takes priority? Just see this example. You will get to know the purpose of the slide. Def function x int. Okay, it is taking a integer parameter in the body, val y equal to 1, where y is a constant, and val r equal to, again some expression, val y equal to 2, x plus y. And if I pass x as 10 here, and now while it is doing this x plus y, whether it should consider this 1 or 2, it should consider this 2 only. Always the inner scope shadows the outer scope. While it is having y equal to 2, this hides this. If you try to print ln of r, now it prints you 12. But after coming out of this r block, and if you again try to do x plus y, this time it prints you 11. And if you call fun of 10, just give it a try. But there is a minor thing that you guys have to concentrate here, and which will confuse you in the next topic. Method of fun is defined twice conflicting symbols. Okay. Okay. So for the first time, what it did was, so when it printed first time, println of r, it printed 12. And then again, if I do outside of this r, it used this y equal to 1. Same like your Java. Okay. But if I show you this next slide, this is where your confusion starts. So lexical closure. This is again something, a new keyword or terminology that you'll come across here in Scala. The same way like lambda expression or anonymous function, you might be hearing for the first time. So here, before explaining this, I'll simply show you an example. Just try to understand this by example. Okay. So I have a function fun1. Let me take this into my notepad. Okay. Or Eclipse. I don't need this much of space for this. Okay. Now what I'm trying to do here is, I have a function fun1. It is not taking any parameter, but returning a function. Okay. And what is that function? So inside this definition body, I have declared one local variable, local constant y, and def add x :int equal to x plus y. Is it something strange in Scala that you are observing here? If you have, if you remember the basic functionality of Java, if you try to let's say I have a function main and println public void println print hello string message. Anything that I have outside of this function inside my class, okay, private int I equal to 10. Just simply try to do that I as well. Okay. So the way you are accessing your outside field inside, I mean, this field is within the scope of this function. Okay. I is defined just before the print hello. So that's the reason. Even though I didn't pass that I as a function parameter to this, I'm still able to access this. Int test.java I. I'm able to access that I. Okay. Yep. Like class variable. Yes. So you have, that means not just the parameters that you pass to your function and not just the parameters that you declare inside your function. Any variables that are declared outside of your function, and if they are within the scope of your function, you can access them inside your function. Okay. Accessing message inside your program is not a big deal. Nothing surprising here. And int j equal to 20, and accessing this j is again not a big surprise. And I, which is not present, not passed as a parameter and not declared inside this variable, but if it is available within the scope of your class or this function, you can access this. Okay. The same way in Scala also. So here, this add function, it is taking only one parameter x int, and using that x is nothing surprising. And y I didn't declare as a new field, but I am able to access this y value since this val y is available, just declared before this function, and it is available at the time of execution of this function.
So you mean it's just like a global variable that can be used inside function?
Not
inside
a global variable. I mean, we should not say that that is a global variable. If that variable is available at the time of writing that, defining that function, you can see here in Java, you have private variables. Okay, you declared it as private. It is not a global variable, but this variable is available for all the function. In your point of view, this is global to this class.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is global to the function one.
Yep. Global to that function one. And here, anything that you declared before you define your function, val y equal to 1, that is available, that can be used inside your function definition. Def add of x plus y. I just said x plus y. My y, at this point of time, the only available y is this y. Okay. And if I println of add of 10, so it should print something. This will not get executed, first of all. If I only call this function, then only I will be able to execute this. Let's do that as well anyway. Not a big deal. There is some error, seems like somewhere. Function 3. function 2 of integer. So what's the big deal of it? Having that's the problem while writing in this. You have to make sure that you're using new function names at the time. Okay. Now, please try to focus on this and try to understand. So I have function f1. Inside that I have an add function. Okay, and add function takes only x as parameter, but it does x plus y, and that y is 1 here. And when I println of add of 10, let's not worry at this moment what it prints here. Obviously 10 plus 1, 11. Okay, and now you are returning that function name at the end. That means whoever calls your function 1, they will get this add function to that. Now inside your function 3, you have val y equal to 2. Okay, and val f function 1, and if you call now println of f of 10, so this is nothing but val f is having add function, correct? Val f is having a reference to this add function. Add function means x, take x and return x plus y. And at the time of execution, it has x as 10 and what is y? 2. But is this y local to this method or this y it accesses? Just give it a try. Anyone wants to answer?
Yeah, y equal to 1 because it's declared outside of that function 1.
Y equal to 1 will be considered. The reason is okay.
Can you go to the Eclipse, please?
Yes, yes. I'm a little bit confusing there because of this font and these things. I'm feeling like this is much better, isn't it? The shell. Let me increase the size maybe. Okay. Is this not good for looking or?
This is okay.
It's good, but it's visible enough.
Yeah. So it's better than that Eclipse, right?
Both are same. There's no much difference.
Okay. I mean, because of this too many boxes and things.
Yeah, I would prefer the command line. That looks very
Yeah, simple. Okay. So now I have this def here. So this function 3, inside this function 3, val y equal to 2, val f equal to fun 1, which means this has f is equivalent to add, and f of 10, add of 10, you are passing add of 10. Now, so whether it will print 11 or 12, and y. Function 3, I'll simply call it. So it printed both the cases 11, 11. The first got executed. So when you are calling f of 10, it goes to this call, add of x plus y. First it calls, while it gets the f, you are making a call to fun1, which means it goes here and y gets assigned to 1 and add function, and println of add of 10, and add will get returned to yeah. So that's when the 11 got printed. And next time, again that add of 10, you are calling this directly add of 10, and it has the scope for accessing y only. This will not consider this y. So just one conclusion. The function fun1, this whatever this function, this returns a closure. A closure is a function, a nested function that is accessing not just its parameters, any of its local accessible variable, and that access gets carried over wherever it gets called, no matter. So at the time of definition, what was the variable it was accessing? That value will only be available throughout its execution. So no matter whether I call it from function 2 or function 3, function 4, function 5, it always uses that value y equal to 1 only, because that was the value of y at the time when we declared add function. Is it clear? Confusing? Is it clear or confusing? Or is it making sense?
Yeah, it's okay. It's not clear, but okay.
I mean, I'm not okay with your answer.
I don't want to lie. It's okay. It's clear. I mean,
no.
How much I'm able to grasp, I think I'm good.
No, I'm not telling you to lie. If you are not clear, I'm not okay. I will again explain. I mean, that's what
I think actually I'm able to get it, but I'm not unless until I actually physically try it. I don't think I'll get confidence that I know this. But yeah, you can go ahead. No worries. But I'm not confident in what you said. I heard it, but I didn't grasp it actually.
Okay. See, simple funda. When you are using any inner functions or nested functions, other than the function parameters, if you are accessing any other variables, whatever the variable value that was available at the time of writing, whatever the value that was available, that will only carry it wherever you call that function, no matter where you are calling from.
Okay.
Yeah. See, at the time of writing my add function, my value of y is 1. No matter from where I call this add function. That's it. That always y is 1 only. Whether
so it's fixed, you have made it, and okay. Okay.
Because at the time of writing, at the time of defining, what was my value? My y as 1. That will only be used wherever you call. That's a simple statement to you.
Okay, so in sense, if you are saying that the function 1 is calling another add function, and so basically it's function into function, that's it, right?
Function into?
Function in a function.
Yes, function in a function, that's for sure. But here this nested function is called a closure.
Okay.
Lexical closure. When we call that as a lexical closure, if you access any parameter that is not, if you access a variable which is not a parameter to your function and not defined inside yourself,
Okay.
Example, here we are accessing y. Y is not a parameter to add function, but you are accessing from this scope. Since you are within this method and you can access all the variables inside this method, you are accessing it. Now,
Okay, get you. Yeah, it's much clearer now. Yeah.
Add becomes a closer, and closer context will carry forwarded wherever you call that, the same context will be maintained. Y will be always 1.
Okay. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yep. Now, you see simple examples or usage of this. Let's say I have a variable called voting age. Okay? I declare my voting age, or if I have to put it in simple problem and the solution for that, if I have to calculate, calculate whether a particular user age is greater than, whether he is eligible for voting or not, you should need to write a function. So typically we write this way, like age and voting age, right? Age is of int and voting age is of int, and inside your function you check. So what will you write if age greater than voting age? Then return true. Okay. And every time when you are calling function 1, so if I'm calling my age 30, 18, then it returns true. And if I have to call someone else's age 16, 18, so every time I have to pass this. Okay. So instead of this, so what it is telling is that with the help of the closure concept, accessing the local variables, where voting age equal to 18, I define this one. I declare this. Now I define is voting age or not. Another function, def is a voting age, just it takes an integer, it returns just a true or false. Okay. Age greater than voting age. Now if I call this is voting age of 16, the same is voting age of 32, and is voting age of 30. So no matter, I don't need to pass the second parameter. And again, if you, for a different scenario, if you want to change this value, you simply just change that voting age. Since you declared that as a voting age as var, and if you want to make it as 21, you can even keep this just changed one time, and you have your other method calls not impacted. So here, whenever you call this, your voting age context is, before you define that, so whatever the value that was there, if it is a val, that will get carried over the same. And if it is a var, and if you want to override that, you can. Okay. And similarly, you can see var more equal to 1, val add more of x plus more. Every time if you pass x, 1 will get added to that. And if it is a more is a variable, and if you change that more, and if you add this will get changed. And if it was a val, always 1 will get incremented. Okay. And another simple example is remove low scores. So what I'm trying to do is, this is a function which takes a list of integers, and I'm specifying a threshold. It's a list of scores. This is a list of scores, and I'm specifying the score threshold. Let's say cutoff is 35 or 60, something. If I specify the cutoff 60 here, and the return type is also another list of scores, and what I'm doing here, that the scores list A dot filter score, for each score in this list, return score greater than or equal to threshold. Now, in this, I call this as a closure, because this is a body. A dot filter is the body of this function. Remove low scores. Inside this body, score arrow score is an anonymous function, right? This is anonymous function. And in this anonymous function implementation, you are accessing a field threshold, which is not a parameter of your anonymous function. If threshold is a parameter, then you should give this as a score comma threshold in a parenthesis, arrow, score greater than or equal to threshold. I doubt that half of you guys might not got this. This is the function body. Now, do you guys agree that this is an anonymous function? The highlighted portion of it. And this is an anonymous function. And this is a nested function too, because this is a function inside the remove low scores function, defined inside a low scores function. Isn't it? So, score arrow score greater than threshold is anonymous function, because since there is no name for it and there is an arrow, that's why you are identifying it as a function, and since there is no name, you are calling it as anonymous function. And this anonymous function is present inside a body of another function, remove low scores. So this anonymous function got one more characteristic, that is, it is a nested function. Now you are adding one more characteristic. This is a closure. Reason? It is accessing not just its parameters, because if you take this as a parameter, this is your this is a function, this as a function, this is your input parameter, and this is your body. And inside your function body, you are using a new variable which was not a part of your input parameter list, and which you didn't declare also inside your body. You didn't declare this way, like a var threshold. You didn't do this, var threshold equal to 0 or something. You didn't do this. But you are using this within the scope of this. And I'm talking about this function. So you are passing only score as parameter, but in the body you are accessing threshold also. From where it is accessing? From this method. Meaning your parent method, inside which you have got defined, or inside which you defined it. Now, since it is accessing a threshold, since this is now called as a closure as well. Now, so it got all the names, whatever that we have discussed. This is anonymous function, right? And it is a nested function, since it is present inside that remove low scores. And this is also called as lexical closure, since it is accessing the threshold, which is not a parameter to this. And you will see this kind of usage a lot in Spark programming.
So when I call the score function, right? I don't need to pass the threshold value.
Yep. See,
yeah. So
I mean, first of all, there is no scope for you to call this function directly.
Yeah.
Because there is a no name for this.
Correct.
You always have to call remove low scores, pass a list, 25, 35, some marks, some scores.
Okay.
Specify threshold as 60. And inside this is a function that gets executed for you and filters out the list's values to it.
Okay.
Okay. If I would have given a name to it, and if I were returning that name, then you might call that function and then you can directly call the score.
Okay.
So like we have seen in the previous slide. Here I have given a name, def add, and that add will get assigned to F now. And I'm returning that there. And even if you don't return, here I'm not even returning here, score arrow score. This is an anonymous function, which is defined inside this remove low scores. But I'm not returning a reference to this function anywhere. It simply gets executed. Even then, this is a nested function, and this is a closure.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. See, these concepts, little bit minor differences, might be a little bit confusing. Just try to
we can understand if it is a separate concept, but if it is inside a big program, or if we are doing some analysis, that's where we will get real pain, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, you can do. I mean, while you are writing programs, you will be clear what you are trying to write.
Correct. Yeah.
When someone has written, and if you are trying to understand, if they might have used all these things, you should not get confused. That's the reason why I'm trying to give all these kinds of arrays.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So if you are writing program, you can simply write whatever the concept, basic anonymous function concept, if you know just that level. I can even rewrite this way. I don't need to make this as a, I can simply pass both the parameters, and I can access them.
Yeah.
Then this is no longer a lexical closure.
Or we can define a threshold as one value, and then can keep on checking whether it's
okay. Yeah. So you can achieve without lexical closure also the same functionality. Without declaring this as a nested function also you can achieve. You write this somewhere in the function, def some filter fun, and do this, pass these two parameters here and do that, and then you call this filter function. Then that time it is no longer anonymous function too, and you have clear-cut understanding what you are doing.
Yep.
Correct? Yeah. So this is, until you guys get comfortable, everyone will do this one only, because since people come from different programming languages, if you are not not much expert into mix and use all these concepts, we were doing the same kind of stuff. I was defining a function regular to any Java function, passing parameters and returning, and taking that name and using that name only and wherever I want. Without using that anonymous functions concept also, I can achieve these things. But only thing is, you should not get confused in analyzing the existing code. And slowly, if you get used to usage of this, you'll find like you'll, instead of writing 3-4 lines of code, you'll write it in just 1 line. That's it. That's the beauty once you get perfect into the Scala program. Okay, so this is the confusing concept for today, and there is a currying. There is not much real-time advantages of it. I'll simply give you, because the currying is also one of the functional programming feature.
Shiva, one question. It's not related to function, but looks like we may use function more in Scala programming.
Yes, obviously, in any programming language, functions are needed. Same like Java, right? Java without functions, how can you achieve anything?
Yeah.
Python also without writing function, how can you achieve?
Background, right? So I'm just trying to.
Yeah, in any programming language, functions are very important. Like Python or C or Java or whatever you take. You put all your code inside a function and you call that functions. Modularize. It's not just like a script. Even in shell scripts, you try to define functions and call them. That's an ideal way. Instead of writing all the shell script commands one after the other. You'll do the same thing in the function, but you call them you modularize them, you separate them into different functions, and you call them in those functions in a particular order.
Okay, so in other words, maybe shortcut, correct me if I'm wrong, if we are strong in these function concept, we are like more than 50%.
Yes, if you are good in function, if you understand the function, the last class functions concepts like passing function parameters, and today's class higher order function, anonymous function, nested function, and closure, enough. You are good in functional programming concepts. Okay, that's what functional programming features means. All related to functions only. And second concept is oops. If you know that oops, you are 100% done.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So currying, it's just there in the list of functional programming features. I'll tell you, but we don't recommend using this much. If you just see the example, the purpose of it, you'll identify it. Currying means, in mathematics and computer science, currying is a technique of transforming a function that takes multiple arguments. A function that takes multiple arguments, transforming that in such a way that it can be called as a chain of functions, each with a single argument. Okay, I didn't find any real-time advantage of using this much. I'm not a big fan of it, at least. Okay, if you feel like it makes sense to you, just start. Otherwise, I don't recommend it. Okay.
On what scenario would this happen? Like when would a condition come when a function into a function, or this multiple arguments should be passed? So is there any like a scenario in which
there is nothing specific scenario where you need to use this. This is just an optional thing. It is available. Just see an example so that without this you can definitely achieve. If you use currying, your function implementation will become a bit complex and confusing. Okay, that's why I'm telling. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't recommend this for my developers to do this. Okay, so if you see this example, you'll understand first thing. Let's say I have def add a if I have to add two numbers, x int, y int. So if you do simply x plus y, this is simple way, okay? And instead of this, if I define one more function, def add b, which takes only one value as a parameter, x of int, and returns another function, okay? Returns another function, and that function, so int arrow int, okay? So equal to y, I mean, this is a function, right? Y arrow x plus y. So inside that function, y is another integer, and yet x you already got from here, and you are doing x plus y. Meaning, if you try to see here, add a of 10, 20, it simply gives you 10 plus 20. This add b of 10 means add b of x, which returns a function. That function itself will take another integer, because another integer as parameter, and returns an integer. For that function parameter, you are passing 20 here. And if you have 3 arguments, it becomes even more confusing. If you have add a, x, y, z, add b of x. So it returns a function which takes one another integer and returns another function, because it's a chain of function calling. And int arrow int, y arrow, z arrow, x plus y plus z. I can even spend more time on this and making you clear, spending much time, but except this might be how it got implemented. You might be a little bit confused. By looking at this example, you know the difference. If you simply call this is a simple. If you call this a chain of functions, this is called as currying. Have that idea, that's it. I don't recommend you to do any currying in your time, in real time. Just again, for analysis purpose, have it ready. Nothing much use cases real time where you need to go only for currying, and you need, I mean, it's not mandatory in any case. Did you get it? Are you guys clear? At least on the expectations of this. I think everyone is.
I got clear that this currying is not really important. That's all.
Oh, what is it?
I got clear that this currying is not important for us.
So I think we can move ahead now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not important.
Okay. Yeah, but this is also one of the, probably we need to get our hands ready. Yep, that's correct. But currying is one of the functional programming features. That's why I just included this in the slide, so that you should not get surprised what is meant by currying. And if you ever see any this kind of calling, chaining of parameters, again, you should be able to understand. Okay. Next, immutability. This we have already talked about. Anything that you declare as val, that is immutable, and anything that you declared as var, that can be changed, and that gets applied for not just variables. I mean, not just plain data types, val type data types, also for your collections, and by default your collections are immutable. Okay, so any list is define a list as a immutable. Okay, anyway, we'll talk about collections in a separate slide more in detail. Okay. Again, what are the collections that we talk in the functional programming concepts? This is just for your basic idea, and a complete list of all different types of collections list will cover after the OOPS concepts. Okay. So next concept is lazy vals. Lazy vals. I mean, if you, for example, just understand this example, you will understand the concept also. So I have a function def hello, and inside this function definition, I'm printing hello and returning 10. Okay. If I assign this function to a val a equal to hello. So what it does is, so whether I'm using this, okay, just simply so. What it does, if I do val a equal to hello, immediately after this line, it prints hello and assigns that 10 to this. Okay, I just assigned val a equal to hello. So it printed hello and it got 10 value. But it doesn't care about whether I'm using this a or not anywhere. Okay. So without caring whether I'm using this a or not, simply it executes this function, executes the function or expression, whatever you call, and gets the result of it and assigns to it. In case if I am not using this a anywhere in the sense, maybe if I'm using this inside my if else conditions and that else condition has never met, then unnecessarily I executed 2-3 lines of code, right? If that's the case, you have like a lazy vals declared. Means at least if you are using once, and when you are using for the first time, then only this expression, this function will get called and value gets assigned. If I declare a lazy val b equal to or a equal to also, okay, hello. So now it didn't print hello or it didn't use this. If I use that a anywhere, then only it prints. See, if I'm using a in my println statement, so now I need to get the value of a to print that. So that time it executed the hello function and it got that value as 10. Just by assigning, it didn't execute that function. This is called lazy values using that lazy keyword. So you can, your execution will happen only at its first usage.
So what, like this LAZY, lazy, like is there any correlation to the way it's executed this function? Or is just a terminology given?
It's a terminology given, that's it. There is nothing correlated to hello function. Hello function is in both the cases, it's the same hello function only. It's lazy is assigned only or correlated to your variable value a, that's it. So if you declare a regular vals, if you are assigning a function, the function will get executed and the value will get assigned to it as soon as you write that assignment operation. And in case of lazy vals, only if you are using this a anywhere statements, in that case, while using that, and only for the first time, this hello will get executed and value gets assigned. Any confusion? Same like, I mean, if you guys are, yes, like dump in pig, that's what I'm going to tell. Same like your dump or store command in pig, if you have a pig knowledge, or if you have a MapReduce knowledge, lazy output format. There is an output format type called lazy output format. That lazy output format will create a output files only if it has at least one record to write in it. If you don't use lazy output format, if there is nothing to write, even then it will create an empty part-r files. You might have seen some MapReduce jobs producing if it is running a reducer, but the reducer file might be empty. Yep. So I'm assuming you guys got it. Let me know if that's not the case.
Good assumption, Shiva.
What should I do then? If you guys are not saying yes.
So, I mean, well, I don't know if it's just my problem or if it's everyone agrees with me on this. But if a real-time scenario would be, you know, when and where to use this, like a scenario, like for example, I faced this issue and so I had to use this or this, like a case. If you could tell us a use case kind of a thing, it would be much more clear as to when and what type. Because right now we are just getting bombarded with so many functions.
I mean, these are these are very, very simple things. Okay. All other programming concepts are common in Scala as well, but these are simple things which I don't want you guys to miss that the Scala is providing. That's why I'm telling this. Just for
he may not be used all these.
You will not see you'll not find any significant real-time use case for usage of lazy vals. Obviously, see.
Why is it not good or is it bad?
No, it's not good. See, it's not a considerable example to tell. There won't be any considerable example. But for you to understand, let's say if I have declared a val, okay, and I am assigning some function, some expression is there. Okay, so that is a very big expression, like 10 to 20 lines of code. Okay. And the other way you are using in if-else conditions, like n greater than 0, do this, else, so else some a equal to a plus something or some any operation that involving a you are doing. If n greater than 0, you're not using a. Okay. So even in that case, if most 90% of the scenarios assume that your data will satisfy this n greater than 0 scenario. Okay. And you have assigned a function or some other expression to val a, any function or expression, anything. Okay. So even though 90% of the scenarios will not fall into the else scenario, you're still executing this 20 lines of code all the time.
Okay.
Okay. But if you know where only 10% of the scenarios only will fall into the else condition, you can declare this as a lazy. Only for those 10% of the scenarios, this function 20 lines of code will get executed. Got it?
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this kind of correlation I can give, but real-time use case means, again, like, so when I got this, not much considerable scenario. I mean, sometimes we don't even care whether it gets all the times get executed or not.
Shiva, have you used I don't know if you have you worked on Scala in any of your projects? So then you can share us your real-time experience as to where and why and what.
Yes,
And
yes, I will anyway explain that real-time project.
yeah, I think that would make
The
much
simple-
more clear.
Even the sample POC codes while doing not the real-time project direct code, but when I was doing the sample POC before delivering the project, so that pieces of code also I will share with you. Okay, and I mean these Scala point of view, real-time use cases. It's like a programming language. When you are using a programming language, I always concentrate or focus about you learn the concepts what you are there. I mean, it depends on case to case
When to use it,
where to use them, and it might not be possible for me to give real-time use cases. If you are talking about Spark concepts and project, we can specify this concept needs to be used in this case. Okay, so these Scala concepts are just a kind of optional. Either you go with this or go with that or this. That's a purely and developer comfort, but it has its own pros and cons. Like if you use this, you have optimization technique, and these are minor things to capture.
Best is Shiva, share me your project code, and I think I'll be better off next class.
Okay, yeah, I'll share at the end. Actually, I mean, if I.
Is it only me who is facing this, or is it everybody else? I don't know. Is this me? I'm feeling this, or
I myself told you in the beginning, right? Scala. I mean, it's not just you. The people.
Because I think at
this is a common feedback on Scala.
Yeah.
For the first 2 months, it will be confusing, and once you get used to it, you'll not find it. This statement I made at least 2 to 3 times from the past sessions as well.
Okay, I get that. I totally understand. But yeah, it won't be good on there if you tell me to use this.
But don't copy and paste Shiva's code.
I think I won't be doing that. I wouldn't be agreeing on this. Jack, at this time of the hour, I think if you get this, I think it's great.
I know you are asking code. It means I thought you are copy and pasting in your project Shiva's code. Don't do that.
Okay, then Jax, whatever project you do, give it to me and I'll take it over there.
Yeah, sure, I'll do that.
Okay, yeah. So maybe I will not trouble you guys much more. Let me complete this last topic. Again, this is similar to that lazy evaluation only. If it is a function, if it is a variable assignment, you can achieve that by using the lazy keyword. If that expression is being utilized inside another function, there is a different syntax to achieve that lazy evaluation that I will show you here. And after that, pure functions I'm not much worried about. Yeah, not much on confusing topics. We'll talk about collections, basic collection operations. Then we'll get into the OOPS concepts tomorrow or next class. Next class is on Sunday. Okay, and there are not much troubles to you. Okay, just giving you heads up. And good news that we almost crossed all the confusing concepts. Okay, this example, if I explain from end to end, it might be a little bit confusing, but I will just tell you the gist of it. That the same expressions, if you are assigning that expression or function to a val A, if we use lazy to get this executed only on its first usage. Okay, the same case, if I am passing those expressions as a parameters to another function, then I have to specify that same concept. If I have to get that lazily evaluated with just colon. colon arrow. For example, what is mean by is here, forget about all this previous context, what it is here. Here, if I have def myIf and condition boolean, condition is a variable which is of boolean type, then part is a variable which is of int type, and else part is another variable which is of int. Okay, and its body is if condition is true, if whatever the boolean value that you have sent that is true, then execute then part, then return that then part, this integer, else return that else part. Okay, and if I am trying to make a call to this myIf, println of myIf, okay, so in place of condition boolean, I'm passing an expression 1 less than 2. This is an expression, right? And another, even the function can be called as an expression, a function 1. Instead of passing an integer value, I'm passing an expression here. Like this is a variable then part. For then part, I'm assigning a function that returns an integer. So I can do that. Again, function 2. So in this case, what happens is, if you do this, before even myIf function gets called, all these three functions will get, all these three expressions will get first evaluated, meaning this expression will become 1 less than true, 1 less than 2 means true, and this function will get executed and prints 1, fun1, and 10 gets assigned to this place, and function 2 will get called and it prints fun2, and 20 gets assigned to this place, and then myIf will get called. Okay, but instead of declaring this function this way, if I just add then part colon arrow int, then what will happen is, if I declare this way, so condition boolean then part colon arrow else part colon arrow int. So condition, since I didn't use colon while at the time of calling itself, 1 less than 2, this gets evaluated and it goes inside that function. When I'm calling this, it simply this function will become, or if I let me copy this out and I will show you this piece of code. Okay, in both the scenarios, how does that executes? Let me show you here. Okay, so if this is my typical, this is our regular way of defining our function, nothing new in this. Okay, so if we do this, and if I have my function 1 and function 2 here, so before even myIf gets called, what will happen is this will get called, evaluated, it gets true first, and this prints hello and it gets 10, and this gets evaluated and it gets 20. So that means it printed fun1 and fun2. Okay, but whereas if I use this, just an extra arrow, okay, and if I call this same function, so in the first case this became this, and in the second case it will become first true, and these two remain as it is. And inside, while calling this myIf, these are the three parameters that it goes, and while executing that myIf condition, then there is a need for then part, because the received value is true, then there is a need for then part, then only the fun will get called and it prints fun1 and it returns 10. Okay, that's why if you use this, only then part will get executed and it prints only fun1, which means you didn't let these expressions evaluated before their need. Only when they got the need, because of this, you stop the execution of one function completely, right? So your speed, your performance obviously will get increased, doubled, because out of the two functions, you stop the execution of one function. Whichever function is needed while at the time of dynamically calling based on the value, that function only will get executed. The second function will not get executed. This is when you are calling from a function. Okay, the same lazy evaluation concept only. If you are assigning it to a variable, we use that lazy keyword. But if you are passing it as a parameter to another function, we use arrow. If variable colon data type is common, that we know already. If you use arrow, that means that here this arrow does not mean that it is a function. It's just an expression, or it could be a function too. A function is nothing but a one form of expression.
So Shiva, will this add up any value? Like, will this reduce the processing time or something?
Obviously. See, if I show you this too, let's see. Let me define this. Let me run this. Just an example. Okay. So you are stopping your evaluation until its first use. Whichever is needed, that one only you are executing. Whichever is not needed for you. So if you are using obviously an if else condition, only one is needed for you at any point of time. Okay. Now in this case, when I called this, see, it printed both the printlns, fun1 and fun2, and then it returned 10 because the condition is true, and then part which is 10. That's fine. I'm not worried about result. But it executed both the functions, even though there is no need of executing the second function in our case. So if you use the lazy evaluation, it executes only one. Sorry. See, it executed only fun1 because that is what I need.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
So this is the advantage of lazy evaluation. Okay, and there is a simple, there is nothing concept related to this, but this type of functions are called as pure functions. Pure function is a function if it always, how many ever times that we call that function, it should give the same result. That is called as a pure function. This is just for a terminology. I'm just giving this, nothing much useful. For example, if you see here, I have a var balance equal to 1000 and def withdraw amount, and if you pass 100 here, and since this is like a closure where it is accessing the balance variable, balance equal to balance minus amount, and return the balance. So println withdraw of 100, if you first time invoke the withdraw, you'll get 900. And second time if you invoke, you'll get 800. Third time you invoke, you'll get 700. Whereas if you call sign of 0 or identity of 10, it's always 10. Even if you call 100 times, that's a 10 only. Irrespective of number of times you call, for every iteration that you call that method, if you get the same value, that is a pure function. If the values keeps on getting changed, those are called as impure functions in Scala. Nothing to do with this, just a naming. Okay. So, you guys, I think I don't want to trouble you guys for today. Let me take this collections tomorrow. Okay. I'm observing that slowly 2-3 people got dropped. I think you guys got exhausted.
Thanks, Shiva. I was going to go off. I think you heard me that I'm going to go off.
No, I mean, I saw 3 guys got dropped off. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's the end of the day, so yeah.
Yep. At least since there was so many confusions or conflicts that you guys need off for this week, I thought half of the people might not join, but 12 people joined. It's good. And I'm making you guys slowly escaping one by one. Okay. Yeah, let me stop here. Let's continue the collections and OOPS concepts on Sunday.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Any questions? You guys are running.
Shiva, good night.
No questions.
It's like whenever I give chance, you want to run away. No more questions. Okay.
No, even if I ask question, whatever answer you give, I'm not going to hear the answer. I can't understand the answer, so it's better not to ask questions. Questions I have many, but no, I'm not ready to take answers now.
Okay. I mean, first of all, it's not that scary, Scala. It's simple only. I mean, only thing is, you just have to practice the basic things. That's it.
True.
Okay?
Yeah.
And tomorrow there is no class?
Tomorrow there is no class.
Yeah.
It's as per your request. I can take, but many people requested.
Yeah, it's better.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
And I might need your help for the next weekend because I'm traveling back to India on next Sunday night. Next Sunday night class I will not be able to take up. But to compensate that, if you guys are okay, on that Sunday morning I can take around 10 o'clock.
10 to?
Again, same 2 hours. 2 hours or 1.5 hour. How much?
1, okay.
1.5 hour.
Keep us posted.
10 CST, you said that?
Yep, 10 Central. Yep.
Okay. So it's 8 for me.
8:30.
No, I'm based out San Jose, California.
So whatever is the Toronto time, please let me know.
It's
because
11.
next week is changing, right? November 1st or 2nd, like 6th or
November 6th. On that day only it will change timing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our timings, yeah.
Yeah, our timing will change.
So Shiva, make sure you tell us the new timing.
Yeah. I mean, the new timing is 8:30 p.m. Sunday night.
Toronto time?
No.
No.
For that session, and my India timings will be 6:30 a.m. morning, which will be your 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Toronto, and 5 p.m. Pacific.
Okay. Okay. If there is any scope of delaying it by an hour, it'll be great. But if not, then it's fine.
delaying an hour means again making it back to 10:30 or
Yeah, like
11.
no, I'm saying instead of 8 o'clock Toronto time, if you can start at 9 o'clock, new timings.
Okay. That means I should start at 7:30 IST timings. No problem. IST guys will be very more happy for that.
Okay, I think that's better. We can, settle off kids. I can settle off the kids and then get free for the class. So 8 is a little bit on a week. I mean, especially it'll be difficult for me.
Yep.
But again, said if everyone's okay, I'm good too.
Yeah. I mean that actually makes IST guys happy because no
Perfect. Makes me very happy then.
I will be very happy.
Yeah, it's too early for in India.
6:30 is too early.
Yeah,
I think we work.
So it's perfect. Then it's perfect for me. My kids also go off to sleep. Like then I can be free for attending the class rather than struggling to put them to bed.
Then let the US timings be same, and we'll change the India timings from 6:30 to 7:30. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Shiva.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm leaving.
Thank you. Bye bye.